The English Civil War, a struggle for power and liberty. The English Civil War, 1642 to 1651, was a transformative period in British history, marked by intense political and military conflict. The war was fought between the Royalists, who supported King Charles I, and the Parliamentarians, who sought greater influence over the governance of England. The conflict arose from long-standing tensions between monarchy and parliament, economic grievances, religious disputes, and differing visions for the nation's future. The war ultimately led to the execution of Charles I, the establishment of a short-lived Republican government under Oliver Cromwell, and profound changes in the British monarchy and governance. Origins of the conflict. The role of King Charles I. Charles I ascended to the throne in 1625, following the death of his father, James I. From the beginning, he exhibited an authoritarian rule that alienated Parliament and many of his subjects. He believed in the divine right of kings, the idea that he was appointed by God and should rule without interference. His refusal to work with Parliament and his financial policies created deep resentment among both the aristocracy and common citizens. Financial struggles and religious disputes. One of the key sources of conflict was Charles's financial difficulties. He often levied taxes without Parliament's approval, including the controversial ship money tax, which was initially meant for naval defense but was later imposed on all counties, not just coastal ones. Additionally, religious tensions played a crucial role, as Charles attempted to impose Anglican practices on Puritans and Presbyterians, particularly in Scotland. His efforts to force a new prayer book on Scotland in 1637 resulted in the Bishops' Wars, further weakening his authority. Parliament's resistance. In response to Charles's overreach, Parliament began asserting its rights. The Petition of Right, 1628, was an early attempt to limit royal power by prohibiting taxation without consent, arbitrary imprisonment, and forced quartering of soldiers. However, Charles dissolved Parliament multiple times, ruling without it for 11 years, the personal rule. When he finally reconvened Parliament in 1640, relations had deteriorated to the point of no return. The war begins, 1642 to 1646. Formation of the two sides. By 1642, tensions reached a breaking point. Charles attempted to arrest 5 members of Parliament, but they escaped, leading to a national crisis. Both Royalists, Cavaliers, and Parliamentarians, Roundheads, began mobilizing their forces, and war was declared. Key battles. Battle of Edgehill, 1642, the first major battle ended inconclusively, demonstrating that the conflict would be prolonged. Battle of Marston Moor, 1644, a decisive victory for Parliament, largely due to Oliver Cromwell's leadership and the effectiveness of his new model army. Battle of Naseby, 1645, another crushing defeat for the Royalists, marking the beginning of Charles's downfall. Impact of the new model army. Parliament's success was due in part to the establishment of the new model army, a disciplined and professional fighting force led by Sir Thomas Fairfax and Oliver Cromwell. Unlike the Royalist forces, the new model army promoted officers based on merit rather than birthright, giving it a strategic advantage. Defeat and execution of Charles I, 1646 to 1649. By 1646, Charles had been captured by the Scots and handed over to Parliament. Despite negotiations, he refused to accept limitations on his power, leading to the Second Civil War, 1648. Parliament, led by Cromwell and the Radical Puritans, eventually decided to put Charles on trial for treason. In January 1649, Charles was found guilty and executed, a shocking moment in British history. His death marked the first and only time an English king was tried and executed by his own people. The Commonwealth and Cromwell's rule, 1649 to 1658. A republic without a king. With the monarchy abolished, England was declared a republic known as the Commonwealth. Oliver Cromwell emerged as its leader, ruling as Lord Protector from 1653. His government was marked by strict Puritan values, military expansion, and suppression of dissent. Conflicts in Ireland and Scotland. Cromwell launched brutal military campaigns in Ireland and Scotland to quell resistance, most notably the sieges of Drogheda and Wexford in 1649. These campaigns left deep scars and long-lasting animosity between England and its neighboring nations. Cromwell's death and the return of the monarchy. After Cromwell's death in 1658, his son Richard was unable to maintain control. Amidst political chaos, Parliament invited Charles II, son of the executed Charles I, back to the throne in 1660 in an event known as the Restoration. Legacy of the English Civil War. The English Civil War reshaped the monarchy and government, proving that the king was not above the law. It laid the groundwork for constitutional monarchy, limiting royal power and strengthening Parliament's authority. The war also had long-lasting social and economic impacts, influencing political thought and future democratic movements in Britain and beyond. The English Civil War was a defining moment in history, a struggle between tyranny and liberty, monarchy and democracy, tradition and change. Its effects still resonate today, shaping the very principles of governance and individual rights in the modern world.